I think you all are having a great series and a good talks. In fact, I was little intimidated. I said, they are having such a nice speakers all along, and then I am coming, your way. And the second one is, this I am the least qualified person to talk on this topic because I troubled my wife and I troubled all my pastors. I really thank God that none of them are here today. Neither Pastor Joe is here, nor my wife is here. It was not my design, but God has, we have a gracious God. Otherwise, they say, this fellow is talking, but what was happening around 12 years ago? So, in fact, I had a lot of struggle with when I was going through this. I'm going to speak to you for 25, 30 minutes for what I have not been practicing for 3 years. So, you're going to hear something from my failures, from my mistakes, and I hope that God is going to equip you, God is going to give some direction to you, which is going to help you in a positive manner. I know some of you are here who has been waiting for a long time for this, and some of you are want to go on the date, we want to say wait, and some of you have to really wait. So there are all three crowds, and then some of you are probably going to hear it because there are people going to come along your way whom you are going to speak, maybe going to direct, and you are going to counsel them. So far so good, but now it is getting little serious. The relationship began just a relationship, then to a friend, then to a good friend, then to the best friend, then to he's my exclusive or she's my exclusive friend. But the problem begins when you want to upgrade your friend to your wife or your husband. And that is where your software starts crashing. Isn't it? Your software doesn't support what has been supporting all along. So that's what the problem is. So now something is coming which is really serious. We say that we always lose sleep before getting married, uski yaad mein. And after finding, upar wale se faryad mein. You never know what is coming along your way. So both ways are going to lose sleep. Okay. There are different ways of finding, choosing your life partner, and diverse country like India where you had a swamber. All the men will come and the women will have a privilege to choose one. I mean, I wish those days would have come again. Isn't it? Then the greatest response I got from my youngest one. Okay, then you had the arranged marriage. Grandfather have said, and you have to go and get married. That was happening in my culture. Okay, or before your birth, your parents probably would have made a commitment. Agar hamara ladka hoga, to aapki ladki se. So something was weird was happening. And nowadays, sometimes you look for online, sometime offline, thinking when she will be mine. I mean, all kind of problems. But today, I'm going to talk to you something with a biblical perspective, because this is the worldview I follow. Though I do not come from a Christian family, I come from a conservative, traditional, non-Christian family from North. So for me, it was a big struggle to accept what I'm going to share you today. This is a vast topic. We cannot exhaust in 30 minutes. It's too less. We are just going to touch your palate, and probably we are going to give you a foretaste of what you need to search. I remember that a couple of years ago, Pastor Joe was choosing your life partner. He could just finish in 3 weeks. And that too in the main service where they got more grace for time. So here we go. Choosing your life partner. How does it work? I want to share the two story parallelly. One is a perfect story that is in the Bible, and one is an imperfect story that is mine. The perfect story is mentioned in Genesis 24 about Abraham trying to find a wife for his son Isaac. And this is one of the incidents or one of the story where actually Bible talks very clearly about how do you find your spouse. In fact, Ravi Zachariah has spoken a very good message on the I, Isaac, take you Rebecca. You find it audio or book, you can just read that. That's a wonderful book. In this story, you can see that Abraham, when he was old and he wanted to have a bride for his son Isaac, he called his chief servant and he says, "You swear by me," and he prayed to God that you will get a bride for my son, not from the place where we are living, but you go back to my root, go back to my old place, and you will get a wife for my son. And, the servant goes. He had absolutely no clue. He went with a prayer. He puts a fleece before or asks for a sign before God that a girl who will come at the spring, and if she says, if I ask that, give me a water, she will not only offer water to me, but also offer water to the 10 camel which he was carrying. And that will be a sign. And lo and behold, the girl came, and the girl was willing to do and whatever he said. And then finally the whole family was involved. The Rebecca's brother was involved, father was involved. And when they heard what this chief servant has to say, they agreed. And finally the girl was willing to come to Isaac's place or Abraham's place. And everything went very good story. You must read this story in Genesis chapter 24. And couple responded and acted. It was a fairy tale, perfect, beautiful story. But we are living in a fallen world. This was before, we have a different struggle. When we want to think about finding our life partner or choosing our life partner, we just want to say that the first principle or the first step should be, it all begins with God. It doesn't begin with anywhere else, it begins with God. In fact, in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, it says that it is not good. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother, and he shall be united with his wife, and the two shall become one. This is the first mention of, kind of marriage. We always speak on this. It is something else that, the two shall become. For this reason, man shall leave his father and mother, and the two shall become one. I've heard the joke, we say that after honeymoon, they'll come to know which one. Isn't it? God alone can lead for the marriage or for finding your life partner, because he is the one who have ordained or toyed this idea or created this idea of marriage. It was not a man's idea. Let it be, sure on this particular one fact, that it is a God's idea and it is he who has done it. So God is the one who has directed. So he is the one who leads us. In fact, if you'll see this story in Genesis chapter 24 and verse 14 and again in verse 44, he says, God led him to the right place. And he says, when he was praying, the chief servant, he was praying, he says, God, lead me to the one which you have appointed and set apart for my master's son. So God leads you. Not only God has created the whole institution, but also God leads us to the one he has appointed. Now, when Eve was created, I think Adam has a much better situation. In fact, he was living before the fallen world. So, for Adam, there was no problem. God put him to sleep, so he was resting, and then he created Eve. So, he had no choice of seeing 10 photographs, selecting one. He had one, had to accept one, and there was no problem. The choices became our tension later. So, he had absolutely God's leading in finding the Eve, and that was the God's idea. But now, I was hearing Joe's message. He said, few months back, we have got 6 billion. Out of 6 billion, God had chose one for you. And you have a very easy job to finding that one in so many people. So that is the God's idea. So it is the God's idea. It all begins with God, whether it's an institution, whether it is the leading of the God, everything depends and begins with him. Now, somebody says the choices came after the fall. Somebody asked, what is the difference between, or what is the similarity between a mobile phone and a wife? They said, दोनों में ऐसा लगता है, थोड़ा वेट करते तो नया मॉडल मिल जाता. isn't it? But your choices has to end somewhere. When you're in a buffet and when you're going on the table, you can't take your plate thinking, "Acha abhi baad mein, something better will come and then I will take." And finally you find at the end of the table, and there's nothing left there. You can't go back because there's a long queue. And sometime it can be our story. If we have not make our choices which is ordained by God, which is initiated by God, which is supported by God, then we are in a trouble. Now, how do we make this choice? That's where we come to the second principle. It says there is wisdom in seeking counsel. Now, when God leads you, He leads us directly and also leads us indirectly. I mean, I was waiting in my term when the God will say, "Thus says the Lord, this is the girl." It never happened. And I was waiting. I never heard God saying, I mean, some people hear from the Bible and all that, I never heard that. But God speaks and God leads us through our parents, our relatives, our friends, and people like me who does not come from a Christian family where my parents were not believer. And that is where the church leadership comes into the picture, when they are our spiritual parents and they were the one who really led us so well. It is, it says that in Proverbs 15:22, plans fail for the lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. We are living in an independent world. It says, we always see in the Hindi movies when the boy brings and say, "Maa ke pair chuo, maa, ye teri bahu hai," and maa gets a heart attack because she might have seen few more. But then, in godly perspective, it is very important that we seek the counsel and take the wisdom of the elders or the leaders or the people, those who are involved in our life. In case of Isaac, there was Abraham, there was a chief priest, then Rebekah's brother, and then Rebekah's father. And everybody was on the same page. Different situation, different circumstances, but all were the one page. And sometimes we find it very difficult. I told you that I'm going to share my struggles and my failures. I was struggling to accept the counsel of my pastors. I was not listening to my parents because I was half there, half here. I was not listening to my pastor. In fact, I troubled Joe a lot. He will say something, but there was some hidden agendas was there in my heart, there was a fear which I was not able to share and which I was not able to deal, and I was struggling with them. And I remember that my first pastor, Nitin, was also involved in our wedding, and he said, "Jaake shaadi kar. If it doesn't work, leave the girl at my place. I will take care." I mean, that's needs guts to say. And so many people in the church and from the church, they involved in our life, they encouraged us, and they took care of us. In fact, we got married here. None of our parents came. Nobody came from my relative. But we had a house full in this particular church when we got married, because the church family was there to stand by us, to share our joy, to share our struggle. So there is a wisdom in the counsel of the elders, seeking the counsel. And we must do that. It is when you're taking a decision on marriage or choosing a life partner, it is going to be the crucial decision of your life after your decision of salvation. It is going to make us or it is going to break us. So the second principle is there is a wisdom in seeking counsel. The third one is being equally yoked. When we were praying, we always pray, "God, reveal your will." And let me open my life a little bit more. I come from a Hindu family. And from outside, I was conforming to everything which spiritual person can look like in this church. Praying, being in a leadership team, and except for the worship team, because I sing in part. So, and when I sing, my children smile, which is not at all encouraging. So, and everything was fine. But there was a hidden area. I said, marriage, I will never do it in the church. I will always do it back in my community. And God has to deal with this. Now, I'm praying that God reveal your will, but there is Bible talks about the revealed will of God, and then there is unrevealed will of God. And the revealed will of God is very, very clear that you will not yoke yourself unnecessarily with unbelievers. What a light has in common with darkness. Very clear. This is revealed will of God. And then you keep on praying. Oh, God, reveal your will. I have made my choices. Now align your will with reveal your will with my will. Sometimes we do that, but God doesn't work that way. You know, I struggle. It says that in Genesis 24:3-4, it says, I want you to swear by the Lord. That's Abraham saying to a chief priest, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I am living, but will go to my country and my own relative and get a wife for my son Isaac. For Abraham, it would have been easier to go to the next door, to the place where he was living, not sending his servant so far to find somebody which is going to be very unpredictable. He was not in touch. There was no mobile those days, no WhatsApp. Dude, can you send me the Rebecca's photograph? There was nothing of that sort. It was all on faith, but he was very clear that do not yoke my son with a woman from the Canaanites. It says in 2 Corinthians, which I said, do not be yoked together with unbelievers. This is a clear will of God. Sometimes we think, we will convert. I mean, this is the way we do it. We have made choices, and then we want to make everybody conform, including God and your pastor. And then you say that, we will, Pastor, she's so good, she's so nice, she's so accommodative. She'll come to know the Lord. And what a testimony it would be. I'm saving a soul. And pastors want to say something, but they will keep quiet. Isn't it? It never happens. Most often than not, you'll find that they will take you to the other side. Question is, being equally yoked is the principle, not unequally yoked. It says in Amos 3:3, do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so? So many people we have found that they have lost it because they have made decision to go in haste, to go, they have lost their testimony because they have yoked themselves with unbelievers. They have yoked with somebody who was not compatible spiritually to them. Before marriage, it looks very easy. He says, I'm an open-minded guy. And whatever you'll say, religion doesn't matter to me. After marriage, the number one becomes you're the religion. We have gone homes and we have counseled where the husband, just to irritate, where the husband was a husband was a Hindu and the wife was a Christian. And just to irritate her, he brought Quran. He says, I'll believe Quran, but I'll not believe what you're saying. And that was, this tragedy that happens all over the time. And we have seen people living in misery because compromising this one aspect of revealed will of God. God has said, this is the path. This is the boundary. Within that, you have to find somebody whom God has chosen for you or set apart for you. Within this, you find the God's will, not beyond this. So there's a revealed will of God, and then there is, within the revealed will of God, you have to find the unrevealed will of God. Amen? Okay, principle 4, the oneness order. That was my problem, spirit, soul, and body. When we start looking for marriage and all, we all have been, our pastors normally ask us to write a prayer list when you're praying, that what do you want in your future spouse and all. And we all write, born again, spirit filled, water baptized, active in the church, doing the God's ministry, supports in my ministry. But the problem is that God answers those prayers. And then you have one list inside. I had one list inside. I had written all nice one, and lo and behold, God answered those. But I wanted some unwritten one also, which was not there. And that is where it comes, the struggle begins. It says the oneness order, when the two shall become one, it will be in the order of spirit, soul, and body. Spirit is the capacity to connect to God. And your spouse or your future spouse, your partner whom you are going to choose, should be spiritually compatible to us. Should be spiritually compatible to you. And then comes the soul, which consists of your mind, emotions, and will. You should be intellectually compatible. Not like she has done MSc psychology, I should be the MSc sociology. And then we will be compatible. No, you should be able to have some meaningful communication. Emotionally also, husband is happy-go-lucky, and the wife is all the time crying, or it can be otherwise also. Don't take me otherwise. I want to be in the correct page. It can be other way also. So emotionally you should be compatible. You should be also the will-wise. Husband has got all the capacity to, I want to, when I met my wife here at Joe's place, and she was wearing a nice cotton sari. मेरा दिल तो उधर ही चला गया. And the first thing I told her, he said that अच्छी सूरत को संवरने की ज़रूरत क्या है, सादगी भी कयामत की कदा होती है. And she said, वाह 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 वाह. I said, man, I found somebody who can appreciate me. I said, simplicity is also adorable, because in simplicity lies the beauty. But we had to go 1 year of struggle. There was various things which surfaced after that first meeting, and we had to really go through. I tried my best to mess up my life. I did everything under my capacity to mess up my life. But God in His goodness saved me. He kept giving His grace after grace after grace to pull me out. So, so problem begins if the order is spirit, soul, and then comes the body. We should have physically compatibility. I'm not saying that the body has no, that it is irrelevant. We should be compatible. You should like each other. But my problem was that after having a very wonderful first meeting, when I said Shairi, she said wah 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 wah. I struggled for 1 year, because now I'm thinking, मेरे को कुछ क्यों नहीं हो रहा है? I'm really struggling that I'm not feeling something for her. I'm not feeling something. Is there something wrong? Is there something wrong? Pastor Joe came in my engagement, and he gave message exactly on this topic. He says, Rajesh, not he said Rajesh, but he says, sometimes the boys and girls look for कुछ होता है, but कभी कुछ भी नहीं होता है. Because God has not destined me for a love marriage. He had chosen me for a marriage love. My relatives still don't believe that we didn't have the love marriage. I say it's a marriage love. After marriage, we fell in love. But till the date we were here, getting married, we all were thinking, "Bhai, barabar chal raha na sab." I mean, literally, we walked by faith, not by sight. It was absolutely faith walk. We had no confidence on our decision. But God is a God who is a gracious God, who is a wonderful God. He's the one who leads you on your path. He says, problem begins when the order is reversed, when body, soul, and spirit. When body, the moment I saw, I fell. Why you fell? देखते ही देखते प्यार हो गया. You see the songs which goes around. It talks about when you saw something physically, and that's where it should start. That is where the problem began. We all grew up seeing those movies, or reading those novels. But in real life, it's a love labors. Isn't it? Love labors. That's what the Bible says in the book of First Colossians. It says it's a labor of love. Love अपने आप नहीं हो जाता है. It's just like that it happened. Isn't it happened? No, we grow in love. And so this is the oneness order is spirit, soul, and body, not other way around. Like that was the case in my, my problem, which when I was, later when I was praying, God started showing me those areas. Now, the principle number 5 is prayerful search. Some of you come to church, some of you come to search. And he says, I'm prayerfully searching. Genesis 24:12 says, then he prayed, O Lord God of my master Abraham, give me success today and show kindness to my master Abraham. The prayer is such an important aspect. Why we got delayed in my contemporary is Wilson. There was a guy called Velu, and then there are a few more. I don't want to name them because we too are exposed, so we can name them. We were always struggling. हमारी शादी क्यों नहीं हो रही यार? ये pastor लोग, they are not discipling these girls. They are looking for high and mighty, and the boys should be IAS and IPS and all that. Where we will go? We will always sit together and crib against the pastors. And the more we crib, the more delay was. Nothing was coming forth. One of the reasons God was not answering because we were not praying. We were cribbing. And that is why, the pastors very nicely they will say, "Hi, are you praying about your marriage?" No. Either out of shyness or out of rebelliousness. You don't bother about my marriage, I'll find it anyway. Lord, lead me not into temptation. I will find them anyway. Isn't it? So sometimes we are not praying, but I'm really thankful to my leaders again, because in the council of the elders there's a wisdom. When they said very specifically, you pray. Now the difference between me and my wife, she was praying absolutely systematically. That I want this. A boy should be in a good job, he should be handsome, he should be humorous and all that. And my list stopped spiritually. So God answered both the prayers. Isn't it? And my problem was that she was at peace. God given a peace to her heart. That's why I say I'm really feeling peaceful about that boy or that girl. Also, she heard from the Bible. She got the prophetic word. And I have none. In fact, in my desperation, I went to Mina's house. I said, Chechi, I'm considering somebody prophesy over me. She gave me a look as if I'm an alien. And she didn't say in words, but she said, get lost. I was desperate. I was saying, why God is not speaking to me? Where is the word which is not coming? Why there is no peace in my heart? Because my prayer was not right. What I have written and I was praying, God answered. But I was looking for an answer for those unwritten agendas of my heart, which was hidden. And finally, and all 5 pastors were really getting angry at me. And they were saying, Atha, it looks like enough, so now you can take care of yourself now nicely. They were running out of grace for me because of my indecisiveness. But one thing, again, in the council of the elder, there is a wisdom. So I met Pastor Isaac. He was Rima's pastor from her side. So she said, what is your problem? Why are you so indecisive? And then I shared that, there are fears in my life. I have seen not a very good marriage about my parents. So when it comes to marriage, I really get scared. And so most of the time, I have told in my mind that I'm never going to get married, first thing. Secondly, I had spoken so many things negative against marriage. He says, Arey, when you're getting married, and then very mazak mein bol sakte, kisko shaheed hona hai? And who want to become a martyr? Or something like that you keep on telling, which is against the institution of marriage. It is a self-proclaimed curse. And I had to really get prayed over myself to cancel those curses. And there, I spent a very meaningful time with him. And he said, why don't you write what is positive about her, what is negative about her, and pray, because positive things God has answered, negative things you start answering. And that was like in a God-sent meeting. And God started speaking one after another immediately. The reservations I had against this, choosing our life partner, my life partner. And it was amazing. He was not speaking what was positive, but what was negative, God started speaking to me. And it was really amazing to see that God allayed my fears and everything. Now, this chief servant, when he asked for a sign, he asked for a divine sign. Isn't it? One divine sign. That let this girl come, she should say this particular word, she should do this particular thing. But also, he was looking for some physical sign. When he's put these signs before the Lord, he also wanted to check about the character of the girl. That is this, I'm asking water for myself, whether she'll be willing to draw water for my camel. Now, she's not asking for another man. It's a camel in a desert. They drink lot of water. And that needs hard work. That needs perseverance. And that talks about the character of a person. Sometimes when you prayer, you put a fleece. Okay, normally no boys comes in my church in a red pant. If somebody will come in the red pant, that person is the one. No. Never happens that way. It says Genesis 24:63, he went out to the field one evening to meditate. As he looked up, he saw camels approaching. Not only the chief priest was praying, not only the parents was praying, but also the Isaac was praying in the field. He had no clue what is happening, but he was praying and meditating. And the moment she came along, there was absolute peace in their heart. Prayer is the desire to know God's will. Pray that God's will create divine appointment. I'm rushing. It says that the principle of the well. Genesis 29 verse 9 says, Jacob found his wife at the well. Exodus 2:15 says, Moses found his wife at the, I can't hear you. Where? Jacob found his wife at the, Moses found his wife at the, Isaac found his wife at the. Now you must be asking some of you, where the hell is this well? The well is the place where people are refreshed, and I want to have a good news that you are sitting in the well. Yeah? You are sitting in the well. And this is the place you are here. This is the place where you are going to find your God's will. This is the revealed will of God. This is the boundary under which or within which we are going to find the will of God. And we need to be very careful. I just want to end here because before the Nathan comes and puts his arm around me and leads me on the green pastures, I just want to end it here. And we are open for, this is not exhaustive, by the way. One of the book which I was fortunate that my pastors gave and which really helped me was, the one which really helped me was Love, Sex, Marriage by Zach Poonen. And there are various other books you can read, you can talk to, and some of the people, those who are here, who are married for a long time, they have walked the talk, and they are willing to help you in this, finding your ways. Yeah? So, God bless you and all the best. Please come in the well next time again. Thank you.